Good evening and welcome to my outdoor study. It was a beautiful day today. We celebrated my grandson's birthdays today. Had a beautiful day in the park. Had lots of games, ate lots of food, hamburgers, hot dogs, cake. It was just super. And my name is Ron. I'm the host of this show, and it is my pleasure to share a daily devotional with you. I'll tell you what, I am just fascinated with this book of Esther. I don't think I've ever really read it before. It's truly a little gem in these 66 books. So let us get into chapter 5 tonight. We know that Esther is facing instant execution if the king doesn't recognize her when she comes to his inner court. Let's see what happens. On the third day of the fast, Esther put on her royal robes and entered the inner court of the palace, just across from the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne, facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing there in the inner court, he welcomed her and held out the gold scepter to her. So Esther approached and touched the end of the scepter. Then the king said to her, "What do you want, Queen Esther? What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half the kingdom." That is the devil tempting her right there, because she could just ignore the people now and settle up for a serious reward. Let's continue. And Esther replied, "If it please the king, let the king and Haman come today to a banquet I have prepared for the king." That's all she asked, for them to come, for the king and Haman to come to a banquet. So, long and short of it, the king and Haman come, and then the king asks her what she really wants. And all she says then is, if it please the king, come to another banquet tomorrow, and I will explain all of this. And so the king agrees. Haman goes home happy, thinking all is well, and he plans Mordecai's demise. So, let's go on to chapter 6. And here's where God steps in. So the temptation from Satan to take a huge reward, she didn't bite. Here's what God does. That night the king had trouble sleeping, so he ordered an attendant to bring the book of the history of his reign so it could be read to him. In those records, he discovered an account of how Mordecai had exposed the plot of two of the eunuchs who guarded the door to the king's private quarters. They had plotted to assassinate the king. What happened, or what reward or recognition did we ever give Mordecai for this? The king asked. His attendants replied, "Nothing has been done for him." "Who is that in the outer court?" the king inquired. As it happened, Haman had just arrived in the outer court of the palace to ask the king to impale Mordecai on the pole he had prepared. So the attendants replied to the king, "Haman is out in the court." "Bring him in," the king ordered. So Haman came in, and the king said, "What should I do to honor a man who truly pleases me?" Now Haman thinks the king's talking about him. If the king wishes to honor someone, he should bring out one of the king's own royal robes, as well as a horse that the king himself has ridden, one with a royal emblem on its head. Let the robes and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most noble officials, and let him see that the man whom the king wishes to honor is dressed in the king's robes and led through the city square on the king's horse. Have the officials shout as they go, "This is what the king does for someone he wishes to honor." I like this. "Excellent," the king said to Haman. "Quick, take the robes and my horse, and do just as you have said for Mordecai the Jew." So Haman took the robes and put them on Mordecai, placed him on the king's own horse, and led him through the city square, shouting, "This is what the king does for someone he wishes to honor." Afterward, Mordecai returned to the palace gate, but Haman hurried home, dejected and completely humiliated. Oh, I love that part of the story. So, now keeping in mind that all the Jews in that kingdom and Esther fasted and prayed for 3 days, and this is what God does. There's something to meditate on. If you've got a huge problem, prayer, serious prayer with fasting is crucial. Give that some thought. You all have a great night. And the word for tonight or for this week is still ambivalent. I remembered it tonight. Y'all take care. God willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.